What's up, YouTube? And welcome to my pickup video for the month of June 2021. What I can tell you to start off is this is going to be a pretty light video. The game market has continued to be very intense the last few months, to the point that it's really having me back off a little bit and spend money in some other areas. This was a heavy month for putting money into my old German cars, so I might have an update on those pretty soon. And then also been getting back into record collecting a little more heavy than game collecting lately. So you guys can tell me if you're interested in seeing any of those pickups. I have done record collecting videos in the past, but nobody really seemed to be all that interested in it. So it is what it is, but obviously I can stick with my core, which is video game collecting. So I will show you what I got this month. I can also tell you I do have some travel coming up in July that I'm looking forward to, taking a nice proper vacation and going to be doing some touring of the Pacific Northwest. So I'm really hoping I'll find some nice games on that trip that's coming up soon. But this month, like I said, was light. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I got. It is not really following any kind of crazy theme, but there is some interesting stuff that I found over the month overall. So the first one of these is kind of a weird one for me. I picked up a Atari 2600 game. This is a system that I've really slowed down on buying for. I just don't have a whole lot of space for Atari games, and then it's really weird to have them either cartridge only or have them in the box. But this one I found at one of my local stores, complete in the box, and I couldn't pass it up. This is just called Taz. Obviously the Tasmanian Devil, Bugs Bunny cartoon character. This one's pretty weird in that it is probably a game that was not at all designed to be a Tasmanian Devil game, but they just incorporated him into the game at the last minute to be able to sell a few more copies. This did release during the game crash of 1983, so I don't think this game did that well, and I had never really seen it in the box at least before, so that's why, I don't know, the art just caught my attention. But if you can see there, Taz is on a frenzy eating burgers, ice cream cones, and what looks to be beer. And I don't really remember Taz being incredibly hungry in the cartoon from a child. Maybe that was a thing and I just don't remember. But basically the theme of this game is you have to run around and collect all the food and drink objects and eat all the fast food and be a glutton. But there's little bombs that, or dynamite sticks that get in your way. And so you have to avoid the dynamite while grabbing the food. I can show you the little screenshot here on the back of it. It's actually a decent game. It's pretty simplistic, but you know, it plays just fine for an Atari game, and it speeds up pretty fast whenever you get past the introductory stage or whatever. So the other thing I found out about this game is, like I was saying, this was probably not written to be a game based around Taz at all. And I found out in other markets it actually was Asterix, which was the main character in this game. So you can pick up that version of the game as well if you're in European markets, I guess. But like I said, I don't get a lot of Atari 2600 games, but this one was cheap and it was in the box and everything, and I thought it looked kind of cool, so I went ahead and took a chance, and it actually is a little bit fun, so I'm kind of happy I grabbed it. Other than that, I'm going to show you pretty much PlayStation stuff as the rest of the video. So I got some PS2 games this month. I was out of town for one day on a work trip and found some pretty good PS2 buys at a store out there. I got one that I had passed on a million times before, and ultimately this is now starting to go up in price, but I got it very cheap. This is Ephemeral Fantasia. This was a very early RPG for the PS2. I think it may have even been a Japanese launch title or very close to the Japanese launch. It had a totally different name in Japan, and it was I think it was like a German word. I can't even remember what it actually was. It was a little bit convoluted, and I have not heard good things about this game, so I'm not expecting much, but for the price I paid, I'm going to try it out. If I don't like it, I can sell it and make some money on it. So I'll see how it is, but ultimately I'm not expecting a classic, and I'm a little surprised this is going up as it is, because it seemed to be that this sold pretty well, just because when the PS2 first was getting started with RPGs, there weren't a whole lot on the market, and this game probably sold well by default, whereas, you know, even as a lesser title, it wouldn't have done so well a couple years later. So anyway, if you've played this one, you can let me know if it's worth checking out or if I should just sell immediately, because I've heard that review from a few people as well along the way. Another PS2 game I got that I've been passing over a lot of times, but again, it's starting to go up, so decided to get ahead and get it, is Obscure: The Aftermath. I do have the original Obscure on PS2 and Xbox. I probably need to sell one of them, because that game has gone crazy in price on PS2, and I think this one is just following suit. This one was put out by a different publisher, so I think this one ultimately they made a whole lot more copies, and maybe that's why this one hasn't gone up as much. Or either that or the story's just not as good in this one. So ultimately, you know, for a survival horror game, this one hasn't spiked as much as some of the other ones have out there, but I figured I better get it before it's completely too late. So be interested to check this out, even though it's not necessarily my favorite genre. Another PS2 game that I had passed on for a million times, seeing it in stores, and just got it now because it is going up, and I got it for a decent price, is Castlevania Lament of Innocence. I am a big Castlevania fan, but pretty much my interest stops at the 2D games, and honestly, I'm not even really crazy about the Metroidvania-style ones. I like the classic 2D-style ones that are more just linear in gameplay. So I have played a few of the 3D ones along the way, just really was left a little bit unimpressed. I did decide to give this one a shake and play it a little bit this month, and honestly I liked the music in it. I thought when it was applied it had some cool music along the way. The stages though are just kind of a mess. I mean, it's Metroidvania style in that you have to do a ton of backtracking, but the camera and the way that it displays which direction you need to go are incredibly odd. And then you'll end up going back into a room that you just were in without even realizing it, the way that it's mapped out. I don't know. So, yeah, I understand backtracking is part of it, and you need to be able to navigate the castle, but it honestly seems like some of it's unintentional because you go into rooms that you've already been to and you didn't intend to go back to that room. So, I played it for, a couple hours. Would I go back to it? Maybe, maybe not. But I guess, again, just to have another Castlevania game is good. There is, I think, the sequel to this one on the PS2. Not positive about that. I think there's a sequel to this. If not, it's on Xbox. And I never played that one either, so maybe that one's a little bit better. But anyway, just nice to have another Castlevania game in the collection. And then I got a PS3 game. This one was really just for efficiency purposes. It was kind of funny. I bought this. I had both the games on their prior platforms, but then bought this and sold the originals. So I got Tales of Symphonia Chronicles. I haven't heard a whole lot about this PS3 version, but I know it was a later release. It does not come with a manual, and that's how they came, so it's kind of a byproduct of some of those later PS3 games. But this one does have Tales of Symphonia and Tales of Symphonia Dawn of the New World. So those were the games that were on the GameCube and then the Wii, respectively, prior, and I had both of those. I decided, this one's a HD remix of them both, and, as long as it's as good as those were, then I might as well just own this and sell the other two, which I did, so... you can let me know, again, if this was a mistake. Maybe this one has some flaws that the other ones didn't, but ultimately I hadn't played the other two that much. I didn't like the Wii game really at all, and the GameCube game was okay, so I might go back to this now and see if I like them better, in this HD format, but it's just kind of an interesting one. I don't know, PS3 games are so up and down right now, it's really hard to tell what's going to be expensive in the future, but I do know that this was like a pretty late release for the system, so sometimes that has a little bit of a good, expectation of what the value could be in the future. Sometimes those late release games were a little bit more difficult to find. So we'll see how it pans out over time, but ultimately it saved me one slot of shelf space by cutting down one case to have this game as a single disc. So nice for that. I did get one new release this month, and this is one that I was really excited about. This is the latest of the Wonder Boy remixes of classic games that are now brought to the PS4. So there's also a Switch version of this too, if you prefer that. But this is Wonder Boy Asha in Monster World, and it's actually Wonder Girl because it's a girl character in this game. This was originally a Sega Mega Drive and Japan game that we never got in the US, and I've played ROMs of it back in the day just because I was always curious about this game, but it was difficult because the game was fully in Japanese at the time. Eventually this game did come out on a Japanese exclusive PS2 compilation of Wonder Boy games that I do have, and so I got to play that physically, but then still it was all in Japanese because there had never been an English version. So this is kind of a nice pack in that you get the original game translated into English, and then you get the new, beautiful remixed game that has really pretty graphics and things like that that kind of go along with some of the other Wonder Boy games. What I would say about this one is the thing that kind of stinks about the classic game is it only comes as a download code. I think the Switch version, it actually is physically on the Switch cartridge, so that may be a benefit of that version. But it's nice to have it either way. The new game I like. I think it was developed with care. What's kind of weird is it looks like it was developed by Artdink, who I didn't even know was still around. They put out some very strange titles on like PS1 and PS2. And apparently they contributed heavily to the development of this this PS4 remaster. So, so far it seems like they did a really good job. There is, just a lot of color to the game, which you don't necessarily get in a lot of these remake games. But I just think a lot of care went into it. Now that I have played the game in English and played some of the original in English, I would say overall it's not the best of the Wonder Boy games, but it does have some neat themes that they brought to it that some of the other ones didn't have. So Overall, this one did get a, like a strictly limited release that I don't even think is still shipped yet. But this one, I think, is an Amazon retail exclusive in the US. I don't think GameStop is stocking this or anything like that. So if you're interested, I just ordered this off Amazon. It is a ESRB rated version, which you wouldn't get if you ordered the strictly limited version. So kind of nice that this came out in the US. It's one of these in-game releases that's, kind of loosely tied to strictly limited. But they are, it seems like they keep putting out some of these as, quote, retail releases, but then only selling them through Amazon in the US. So it is a German company, so I'm sure that has something to do with, the limited availability of some of their stuff in the US. But that's the last game I got for the month. I did get a accessory that I'd always been curious about. I found this at one of my local stores, and that is the Logitech PS2 wireless controller. Wireless controllers prior to this were always a little bit sketchy, using things like RF signals and things like that. I think back to the horror days of the NES wireless controllers, and they were just so bad. So I didn't have any expectations for this, but I'd read some pretty good reviews, and Sony did officially license this, even though they didn't make their own PS2 wireless controller. And so I was curious. I thought I'd give it a try. It does come with a little dongle that you have to hook into your system, so it's like the one other piece that goes with it. But overall, I kind of am impressed. It has a nice rumble to it. They were able to retain that feature. It does take 3 batteries, I believe, which is kind of a downer, and honestly, it's a little bit heavy, with all those batteries clunking around in it. But the analog sticks are nice. The D-pad is a little bit cheesy, but it actually works really well for fighting games. It has it's all the corners of it are connected, unlike the official Sony controller. So it's actually a little bit more comfortable for fighting games. I thought the face buttons were okay, but the trigger buttons are a little bit awkward. They're like oddly shaped, and I don't know, they don't have the same feel as the official controller. So these have gone up, and that was one of the reasons why I was like, well, I guess I'll give it a shot. And now it's blinking because I probably pushed something. But so far I like it, and I have been using this over the last month, so this may end up being my go-to PS2 controller going forward. I'll kind of have to see. I'm very curious how the battery life is going to be over time, since I don't really want to be replacing, AA batteries all the time. So we'll see. If you've used this, you can let me know if you've used it long-term, but so far it seems pretty good. It also, I should mention, it has like the nice just textured rubbery grip that like Logitech mouses have. It's kind of the same feel of this, so it's pretty comfortable to hold. But not bad. Overall, I'd give it like a B+, so it's kind of interesting. So that's all the things I purchased this month. I do have one more pickup, though, that you probably have seen. I haven't alluded to it yet, but I was over at my parents' house helping them with their new computer, and decided to go into their basement and found something that I totally forgot I had left there from when I lived there, forever ago. So behind me is a Tomba display box from my days of working in video game retail in the late 90s. It's a very oversized display box. It's pretty thick, too. I have one of these for Parappa the Rapper that I've kept at my house for ages. I thought that one was super cool, but I totally forgot I brought this one home from the game store back in the day. So I have the original Tomba display box. I'll get out of the way so you can see it. And I just think it's pretty cool. It's got very colorful artwork on there. Not necessarily my favorite PS1 game, but I definitely like it. And just thought I would bring that home. So now I gotta find a place to put this behemoth, because it is pretty big. But it is kind of just a nice, cool piece of PS1 memorabilia. I mentioned in a prior video that like Sony was probably the best of the manufacturers about giving us promotional stuff when I worked at the store. And we got a lot of things from them, display boxes, mock-ups, things like that, but they didn't give us, I think these were the only 2 of these jumbo boxes they made. So if more of these exist, I'd be interested to hear from other PS1 collectors if they've ever purchased any of these, if they made them for any other Sony published titles. But I think it's kind of a cool piece of memorabilia. So be finding a nice place to put that here pretty soon. But that about does it for the month. Like I said, not a huge pickups month. Hopefully I'll have a lot more to show next month when I get back from my trip. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the video. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.